Just recently, Dafuk unexpectedly shared a truly epic spoiler with us. In the frame shown, we see a large TV man who seems to be preparing for a large-scale battle against an entire army of astro toilets. The atmosphere is tense, and something grand is in the air. The frame itself has a secret inscription: "Soon, everything will change." This phrase suggests that Titans will soon arrive to help the Alliance and change the course of the battle. And if you look at the file name, it simply says that this is a spoiler. But before I continue, as always, I'll ask for a like and a subscription to the channel. Thank you very much. So, as we remember, at the very end of the second part of episode 79, several fighters, including Big TV Man himself, managed to take refuge in the mysterious dimension of TV Men. However, even there, they were overtaken by the relentless Watchmen of Doom, who arrived with a squad of astro toilets. It is possible that the battle shown is taking place in this dark dimension. After all, only one Big TV Man is visible in the footage, trying to single-handedly oppose a whole squad of his opponents. It is worth noting that for quite some time now, we have been receiving more and more hints about the imminent appearance of Titan Speakerman. This is confirmed by the latest leaked footage from the third part of episode 79, where attentive viewers were able to see fragments of the Speakerman's base. Most likely, it is at this critical moment that Titan Speakerman will appear to intervene in the battle. However, there is another version. Perhaps G-Man will come to the hero's aid. It is possible that Dafuk deliberately saved Titan Speakerman for dessert so that his appearance would be the culmination of the entire arc. In addition, the squad from episode 78 with half-Titan Speakerman may well join the battle. Everything indicates that the upcoming events promise to be truly epic and fateful for the entire Skibidi Toilet universe. It would be premature to hope that the Alliance will dominate such a formidable and powerful enemy from the very beginning. It is much more likely that we will see a gradual development of events, a slow but steady build-up of the Alliance's strength and strategic superiority, which will grow step by step until the very 81st episode. It is then that the turning point of the entire war may occur. It is also worth noting that it is unlikely that in the third part of episode 79, we will witness the death of another key member of the Alliance. Judging by all appearances, the script will keep all the main characters alive at least until the final denouement. However, one thing can be said with much more certainty. Big TV Man will most likely still be seriously injured before he is rescued. This is hinted at in an old spoiler, where he is depicted with a broken screen, a symbol of the battle he has endured and its almost fatal cost. New spoiler. Even though there was only one, it was enough to fuel interest and spark a storm of discussion. As we can see, the preparation of the animation is nearing completion. Since we're on the subject of spoilers, let's recall other leaked frames to form a complete picture. One of the animators of Dafuk Boom, namely Zach Dur, published 2 frames which he captioned as spoilers from part 3 of episode 79. While this one can still be believed to some extent, the second frame is hard to believe. Let's move on to the next frames. Why is large TV Man depicted intact in this spoiler, although in the previous spoiler, which was released before the release of the second part, he was already in a half-broken state? First, it should be remembered that the end of the second part took place in the TV Man dimension, a place full of secrets and mysteries. That is why it is likely that the moment of large TV Man's injury will be accompanied by a series of flashbacks revealing his past and his role in the events taking place. An additional hint is provided by spoiler, where the familiar inscription GPS tracker appears again. The same phrase was heard in the full 77th episode when the astro toilets broke into the TV Man base. Most likely, while viewers are shown TV Man's flashbacks, the situation will be turned around by the intervention of one of the Titans. His sudden appearance will be a salvation and will evoke vivid, positive emotions from the audience. In the first frame, we see a close-up of the TV Man. The camera captures his figure in detail, creating the impression that he plays a key role in the upcoming events. In the background, a red background is clearly visible, and this is not just an artistic device. With a probability of almost 99%, we can say that the action takes place at the Speakerman base. This assumption is confirmed by other spoilers. The red background appears consistently, as if hinting to the viewer that the location is the same and that it is important to the development of the plot. The scientist will probably turn to the TV man with some information. We have seen this before, so it is logical to expect a repeat of the pattern, but the main question remains open. What is he really going to do? His words may just be a cover. The real actions remain hidden, and this is what creates the intrigue that keeps us waiting for the continuation. In the second frame, which is shown together with the previous one, our gaze is no longer focused on the real TV man himself, but on what is behind him. The camera unobtrusively captures the devices surrounding the character, and it is they that become the main focus of the scene. If you look closely, you can see that these mechanisms resemble a core or a kind of energy source on which the functioning of the entire base depends. The complex system of structures seems to emphasize that a powerful source of energy is concentrated here. It is logical to assume that it is thanks to these devices that the base receives such a colossal amount of energy. It is spent not only on maintaining the life support of the facility, but also on developing new technologies, which means strengthening the speakerman's position in the upcoming confrontation. Thus, the second frame seems to broaden our understanding. It shows not only the characters, but also the very foundation of their power, the heart of the base, without which further events simply could not unfold. What we see in the third frame is not an optical illusion. The camera clearly captures the figure of the dark speakerman, and immediately a reasonable question arises. How did he reappear if, according to all the canons, he died in the 70th episode? There may be several answers, and each version sounds convincing in its own way. The first hypothesis is based on the fact that the dark speakerman was simply restored. Unlike Plungerman, who was destroyed completely for the sake of the secret agent's future plans, this character was only defeated. He fell in battle, but was not completely destroyed. And considering how much time has passed since then, it is quite logical to assume that his parts could have been collected, restored, and put back into service. Then the return of the dark speaker becomes quite understandable. However, there is a second version, which is no less interesting. Perhaps we are not dealing with a resurrection, but with a completely different character who only outwardly copies the original. After all, the design of the dark speakerman cannot be called unique. On the contrary, it is quite universal and allows for variations. This means that it is possible that there are several similar copies, and the one we see now is just one of them. And the most obvious option is that it's an identical statue of the dark speakerman, the same statue with the plunger man that we saw at the cameraman's base. But still, that statue didn't glow, and here the agent's head glows red. Thus, the third frame adds a mystery to the plot. Either we are looking at a revived warrior of the past, or a completely new representative of the same class, or it is just an ordinary statue. And it is this uncertainty that fuels interest in the further development of events. In the fourth frame, a flying column is presented to our attention. At first glance, this element may seem secondary, but in the context of the overall story, it takes on much greater significance. It is logical to assume that Dafuk is delving deeper into the technological side of the speakerman's base, gradually demonstrating new developments and their possible applications. It is worth noting an interesting detail here. Such devices may well be not just part of the background, but a future improvement for specific characters. For example, it cannot be ruled out that this technology will become part of the upgrade for Skibidi DJ, whom, by the way, we have not seen in the plot for a long time. We've seen this happen before. Just think back to episode 44, when Titan TV Man got a boost in the form of speakers that flew to him like a specially designed upgrade. If we compare this to Skibidi DJ's current abilities, it gets even more interesting. At the moment, his main weapon is speakers, but they don't look very powerful and don't inspire the proper respect in battle. Therefore, replacing or improving them seems quite realistic and even necessary. Thus, the fourth frame doesn't just show new technology, it hints at upcoming changes in the balance of power. After all, if Skibidi DJ really gets this upgrade, his role in the confrontation could increase significantly. At first glance, the fifth frame may seem insignificant and even uninteresting, just part of the interior or a random detail. But if you pause and look closely, you will notice that there is something more to it. The structure is very reminiscent of massive gates that seem ready to open at any moment, and this moment may foreshadow the appearance of an extremely powerful character. Special attention should be paid to the bright light. It not only creates an atmosphere of tension and anticipation, but also reinforces the impression that someone truly significant is hiding behind the gates. This light works as an artistic device, hinting to the viewer that something important is coming and possibly a turning point for the entire plot. It is possible that in this scene we will see at least a glimpse of Titan Speakerman. And even if it is only a fragment, a silhouette, a shadow, or a single detail of his appearance, it will be enough to start making guesses and conclusions about what he will look like. Finally, in the last, 6th frame, we can see the engineer, cameraman, and speakerman, who are clearly having a conversation. At first glance, it may seem like a normal exchange, but considering the context of previous episodes, such scenes are rarely random. More often than not, there is something much more significant behind them, testing new technologies or discussing important plans. It is possible that they are again testing some kind of device. We already encountered something similar in the first part of episode 79, where these same characters tested a technology that allowed them to translate the speech of representatives of different races, making complete mutual understanding between them possible. This moment was important because it hinted at the expansion of cooperation and the fact that the alliance is gradually becoming more united. Therefore, we can assume that this time they want to show us something similar. Perhaps the engineers are refining or upgrading the previous system, or maybe we are looking at a completely new technology that will be even more significant in future events. In any case, the scene looks like a foreshadowing that in the third part of episode 79, we will see a continuation of experiments with devices that affect the interaction between different races and strengthen the alliance's position. So, putting all 6 spoilers together, we can build a fairly complete picture of the events that, in all likelihood, await us in the third part of episode 79. First of all, it becomes obvious that at least part of the action will take place at the Speakerman base. We will see many key figures: the scientist TV man, the engineer cameraman, and most intriguingly, Dark Speakerman. His return, or perhaps the appearance of a new version, opens up space for a multitude of theories and confirms that the writers intend to intensify the plot with unexpected returns and reinterpretations of old characters. And the return of the Titan Speakerman can no longer be hidden, as I am sure that it is he who is behind the gates. However, the fate of the squad shown in the second part of episode 79 remains unclear. Their finale was extremely tense, leaving the impression that they were either destroyed or miraculously saved at the last moment. There are 2 possible scenarios here. Either the heroes did manage to teleport to the Speakerman base, or they remained trapped, in which case their fate will be tragic. But considering the main message of the spoilers, which almost directly states that the time has come to fight back against the Astro Toilets, it is logical to assume that the key fighters will still be saved. After all, without them, the Alliance will not be able to move on to the active phase of resistance. Dafuk Boom has shown more than once that his plot can change literally on the fly. A good example is episode 79 itself. It was originally conceived as a 2-parter, but due to the excessive amount of material, the plot had to be split into 3 parts. Such edits prove that even the author sometimes faces unforeseen circumstances, and because of this, some scenes are moved, supplemented, or completely reworked. Therefore, the conversation between UFO Toilet and G-Man may well be left for later, if Dafuk decides to stretch the intrigue even further. Basically, that's all we can say at the moment. The rest is just guesswork and speculation. We'll wait for the continuation, keep an eye out for new spoilers, and hope that Dafuk will share additional information in the near future. Well, that's all for today. As always, this is Super Cameraman signing off. Good luck, everyone, and see you next time.